Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 3 of the Südspeed Sportscar Series. It takes place tonight in sunny Barcelona, the legendary Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Last round at Montreal, we saw some of the best racing so far, and at this circuit, with plenty of wide open corners, high-speed entrances, and long straights with big braking zones, I'm sure we're going to see a whole heap more passing coming up tonight. I'm Bo Albert. In the director's booth is Mr. Jay Kennedy, but more importantly, alongside me in the commentary booth is Mr. Reese Gardner. Reese, we're both looking forward to this one. It's in a great track that provides great racing. What are your thoughts heading into tonight?
I certainly have been looking forward to this round for a while. I'm looking forward to every single round of this series just because the racing has been so intense. But, you know, I think this track, Barcelona, will certainly lend itself to good racing in the Ligier LMP3 car. We got a long straight to deal with here, Bo. That should provide plenty of slipstreaming opportunities and plenty of fast-flowing corners and a lot of runoff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a circuit that definitely favors itself to a good racing, so it's going to be a great race, and these Ligiers are only getting faster, and these drivers are optimizing them just a little bit more week in, week out. So it's going to be very exciting to see how things go as qualifying currently ticks down with just 7 minutes remaining. But first, get a bit of an idea on where exactly we're racing. And like we mentioned, in Barcelona, in sunny Spain, you can see they're just off to the coast there. We zoom in on Barcelona to the circuit of Catalunya, which has seen so many hours and years of Formula 1 testing amongst other categories such as the European Le Mans series, which also features these LMP3 cars. It's a track that has had many changes over the years, Reese, which you know much about.
Indeed. Of course, the track has changed one more time in 2022. Turns 10 and 11 that you see up there on the right moved inwards slightly. The yellow layout that you see there is the Grand Prix layout that was used up until last year, starting in 2007. Also, you see that little chicane up around Campsa, turn 9. That was where the circuit originally went, but after 1995, it was changed to just be a full-on straight run from Campsa to La Caixa down at turn 10. Other than that, the track has stayed pretty much the same over the course of its existence, and when it opened, it was known to be very good for racing. But aside from that, It's gained a bit of a reputation in the Formula One crowd for producing boring races, but I think that's more due to its status as a testing venue than anything. Most drivers know this track inside and out.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, in F1, they optimize it so precisely that you often see the qualifying grid all being listed team by team, and it's very boring indeed for those cars. But in LMP3s, in a spec series, category, I think we shouldn't have too much of that issue. We are, of course, on the high-speed layout as well, the historic layout, which we're going to be seeing both a 15-minute race and a 35-minute race too, with a reverse top 10 grid, which of course also features a fuel cap. So we're going back to the format we had at Donington for round 1 earlier in the season, which we saw some great racing, especially in race 1 when it comes to that transfer spot.
Absolutely. Remember, the top 10 get reversed, so we will be keeping our eyes peeled on that 10th place spot in race 1. And don't forget, fuel burn might be an issue in race 2. These are the championship standings going into this round. Sebastian Vandel winning the first 2 rounds on the trot. Quite a ways ahead of Brandon Groach right now.
Yeah, he is. Brandon Groach, of course, the only other driver to secure a race win so far this season. So he's the one that everyone's looking at to really take the fight to Vandel. Sadly, didn't work out last time at Montreal with the spin at the hairpin. But plenty of other drivers are trying to get a little bit quicker. And I won't spoil the qualifying standings right now, or maybe I will as we will tune into our coverage of qualifying. But Mr. Sebastian Vandel, well, he's quick, but he's only position number 5 currently as we take a look at the Altus Australia car coming through the penultimate couple of corners now. What does Vandel have in store? Pole position currently sits at a 35.9 by Brandon Groach. And now as Vandel comes across the line...
Oh, it didn't count.
A lap time this time around. So the pressure's ticking here with just over 3 minutes remaining as Peter Smith crosses the line there. Tries to improve. Down to a 36.4, which is a great time, but stays P2.
Yeah, indeed. Looking like the times are pretty close, especially in the midfield. Mark Foster down in 13th place right now, 138.14. All he has to do is find a 10th, and that'll be another position for him over Daniel Finney. 37.4 will certainly do it. That jumps him all the way up the field there to 8th place. Nice improvement there from the driver of car number 50. So let's see what everyone else can do as the session goes on. These cars do take a little bit to really turn on the tyres, so you'll expect that a lot of them are out there for 2 or 3 laps at a time. Yeah, you would. Of course, it does take quite a while to get the tyres up to tempers. Brady Bull was finding out. If you wondered how hard tyres are to deal with, I think there's your answer there from the number 7 car. Brady Bolden working the wheel violently through this sequence of corners. Great to see him out on track. Of course, I believe he missed last round out at Montreal, but had a great showing. Donington, a bit bamboozled by what I'm watching here. This is fantastic car control. It was, as unfortunately, if you're going to have a crash, he's in the right place for it. As Eric Benson is a great improvement there, up to position number 9. But we get a replay of just how much wheel work and correction was going on there. Of course, Brady, very familiar with dirt sprint cars. So opposite lock, no stranger to him, but nonetheless, that is one way to drive a prototype race. Yeah, probably not the right way, all things considered. He's demonstrating the very fast last couple of turns here. Of course, we are using the historic layout of this track that does not have the tight hairpin at this location, as well as the final chicane before the last turn, which I would argue is the better layout of this circuit. But for the time being, these sports cars seem to be handling it quite nicely. Jacques Swanpole at the moment, 13th at the moment, and well, you can definitely cut the inside of the penultimate turn quite a bit, but you have to be careful there. Beautiful angle of how much speed the drivers are carrying out of this final turn. It's going to be a 1 minute 37.4 for Swanpole, jumps him up from 13th to 10th. Nice job. Yeah, not bad at all. Gained 3 tenths, but managed to find 4 spots. That's very nice indeed as we watch Sebastian Vandel, who just off camera I was keeping an eye on briefly, got impeded on his previous lap. So this has turned into a bit of a one-lap shootout for Vandel here. He's going to have one chance on this lap we're watching now to really prove if he can make it 3 poles in a row. Of course, pole sitter at Donington, pole sitter at Montreal. He's going for the 3-peat, but these drivers more motivated than ever to stop his charge at the moment. And like we mentioned earlier,
Brandon Groach, the man we all expect to take the fight to him, currently on pole by some 4.5 tenths of a second. So Varndell has quite the mission here as he works his way through the MotoGP section of this circuit. Of course, it's a bit different to what they run in the Grand Prix these days. It's a bit of a tighter line for them, a bit more open here in the sim. But nonetheless, now it is a high-speed run through the final 2 corners. Keep the speed, use the downforce of these Ligiers, and just hope it sticks. A little bit of a lift, almost a semi-break into that final.
Oh, too much!
The gravel, hopefully not an invalidation across the line. I'm not seeing anything pop up on my timing. It is the 5th position for Varndell. He will not get a chance to finish any more laps. As we get ready for the checkered flag, you can see Benici across the line. Didn't see an improvement there. He stays 7th. But there we go. Some storylines right at the death of qualifying there. We have a lot to get through here, Reese.
Yeah, that we do. That was big there from Sebastian Varndell. Last-ditch desperate attempt to try and take pole position, but he's going to start behind all of these guys. Groch on the front row here with Peter Smith. And then we have David Turnbull and Henry Fenson starting on the 2nd row. Varndell will start in 5th spot alongside Cameron Edwards, who I think that's just about his best qualifying performance of the season. Sean Benici and Mark Foster will be in 7th and 8th place, with Eric Fenson rounding out the top 10 with Jacques Swanpole.
Michael Schroeder will kick things off on the 6th row of the grid with Owen Pyra for company there. Very close times throughout all of these guys, which is then led away by Vinnie Nguyen in position 13. Braden O'Loughlin, great to see him out on track this weekend. And a 14th place starting grid slot for him, with Daniel Finney rounding out our top 15 of what is a 19-car grid, which is completed by Brady Baldwin, John Bradshaw, Ali Pring, and Andrew Proctor, all setting times very competitively around this Barcelona circuit, which is seeing lap times in the 1.5 minute range at the moment. So plenty of laps to get through. We're expecting around about the 10 to 11 mark for this first race. So we'll see how we get going on. Shouldn't be any pit stops for this first race. So this is an all-out sprint race.
Yeah, that it is. So we're going to be seeing some big moves into turn 1, I think, and looking at the conditions, it seems like there's going to be a lot of grip available to the drivers when the tyres come up to temperature. Cloudy conditions, and it's late in the day. It's just coming past 6:30 p.m. in sim time. That means that we are going to be finishing race 2 at dusk, with the first tendrils of night creeping in. It's going to be a fun one, Bo. We're not going to be racing in the pitch dark like we unintentionally did at Montreal, but the drivers are still going to have to deal with the darkness.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, by the looks of it, just from this camera shot, dealing with a bit of a blinding sun as well, which is right in their face as they head into the final sequence of corners, the 3rd last corner on the circuit. Seems like it's going to be one of the corners with the worst visibility. So the driver's going to have to keep an eye out for that as well, that they're going to be slightly compromised in a vision sense. That'll make things very exciting, but I can tell you now, all they're thinking about is that long, painful run into turn 1. If you miss that initial jump on the rolling start, that's going to hurt you for a long way. I don't know the exact figures on how long the run into turn 1 is, but I would dare say it's well in the realm of over 400, 500 meters. It is a big run into turn 1 here at Barcelona. So these drivers have to be all eyes forward on what Brandon Groach is doing when he accelerates, when he makes that jump, because a breakaway is very easy to do here. And of course, it's a very technical start to the lap as well, with a right-left chicane that leads into a long turn number 3. So if you get stuck on the outside here, you can find yourselves dumping many positions.
Yeah, considering the circuit is 4.73 Ks long, I'd argue that the front straight is almost a K in length. So in any case, it's going to be, like you said, a very long time before the drivers get on the brakes for turn 1. We have our Zoom wall as well. John Bradshaw, Michael Schroeder, and of course, Sebastian Varndell down on the bottom as well. The drivers are rolling away, as you can see, everyone already getting up to speed and making sure that they have some heat in their tyres as the clouds come over the circuit again. Very nice lighting conditions for these cars, at least for us here in the broadcast booth. As you mentioned, Bo, they are going to have to deal with some of that sun down the start-finish straight, but it looks like we're going to get our start here going through the final turn.
Yep, we definitely are, and I can tell you from experience, it is normally quite a long hold here waiting for that green flag, unless Roach decides to go a little bit early. It's all in his court now. What does he decide to do as we hold up at 80 kilometers an hour for oh so long before planting our right foot and putting it to the floor? It is lights out, and away we go for round 3 of the Südspeed Sportscar Series. Already Groach trying to break the slipstream back over to the racing line as they all fight for second, third, fourth, and behind. Van Dal late on the brakes, trying to make a move. You can see everyone trying to funnel their way through. It looks clean for the most part so far. Through 1, 2, and 3. Off he goes and into the wall. Loses the rear wing as well. I don't know if that was contact with Van Dal or not, but regardless, a disaster there for one of our leading drivers. That's exactly what you don't want to happen, especially starting from the front row of the grid.
Yeah, it was it actually looks like it was part contact with Van Dal, part potentially sliding. There was a bit of space between the cars, but latency might have been involved in that. In any case, that's really unfortunate for Peter Smith after starting on the front row, now carrying damage, having lost his rear wing. He's going to spend some time in the pits repairing that one. For the time being, though, looks like it's been pretty clean here on the first lap. There you go. It actually does look like there was contact registered by the sim. That's just unfortunate there.
It's extremely unfortunate, but nonetheless, Van Dal's not letting him affect him, although his brakes are affecting him quite substantially as he locks it up, trying to get past David Turnbull. Getting a little bit feisty and a bit aggressive in the early stages of this race here. I don't know if Van Dal's just a little maybe impatient or just really forceful in trying to make his way through the field, but regardless, has to be careful as maybe a bit of a race control. We'll be having a look at that incident at turn number 3 as Van Dal wide again at the final corner, actually compromises his exit speed. He has to be careful from behind because Henry Fenson has a little bit of a closing rate on him at the moment. Won't quite get a pass done into turn number 1, but it's not all plain sailing here as Cameron Edwards, actually the driver making an attack, thinks about the inside on Fenson. Can't quite do it, but nonetheless, the intentions are made clear.
That they are, and a little bit of a wider turn in there for Henry Fenson results in a quicker run through the corner. That's one of the turns where you can keep yourself towards the inside or try and widen up the corner. Multiple lines possible there. Looks like an issue for Harley Pring. Meanwhile, he has fallen down a couple of places, but doesn't seem to have gotten any damage. So we'll have to wait and see with regards to that, how that's going to affect this race. In any case, Van Dal getting through into third and still trying here on David Turnbull into the chicane that takes us up to the very quick right-hander across the top of the hill. You've got to be careful on the exit here, Bo. Very easy to pick up an off-track as we see what happened to Pring. Goodness me, just lost the rear end.
Yep, so easy to do. We've seen many drivers do that already this season, most notably at Montreal into the hairpin, but also happening here at Barcelona as well on that big stop in towards turn number 1. But check out some of this battling we've got going on in the midfield, including Brady Baldwin. He's chasing down Michael Schroeder, who's chasing down Mark Foster, who's chasing down Jacques Swanpole at the moment. So a big gaggle of cars there that we're seeing from 7th. Oh, as Benici has it off. Benici off the road at a very odd part of the circuit. Rejoin now, but I only caught that in the corner of my eye. But that happened all by himself. Just a bit of a lose there and lost it in the worst kind of place. We'll get a Südspeed replay up on screen. You'll see a little snap of oversteer, tries to correct it, but never quite catches it back in time. And the car gets sent around in that AstroTurf on the inside.
Yeah, worst thing about that. Whoa, okay, all right, I'll leave that for later. Look at what's going on in turn 1 here. That's incredible. This looks like that battle we were just looking at. Swanpole, Baldwin, and Schroeder all together, and Schroeder has the best seat in the house. We can see as he goes late on the brakes here for turn 4. Brady Baldwin trying around the outside of Jacques Swanpole, but nothing doing for the time being, and Swanpole is massively on the defensive here. Looks like he's managed to cover it for now. Oh, that's a spin ahead.
Yep, Eric Fenton loses it at turn 5 there. So these drivers having a lot of issues as Swanpole thinks about the inside there. They're going to get very close to that.
Baldwin.
Big check up, and yep, Baldwin's gone. Here comes Schroeder, 2-for-1 deal.
Nice.
Done. Fantastic car placement and spatial awareness there by the 263, but is he aware of the attacker from the 101 behind? Swanpole thinks about the inside, can't quite do it, and now Schroeder locks up and almost had a bit of a look at Fenton as well.
Owen Pyra making up a position 2, which is immediately taken back by Brady Baldwin. And he tries getting up the inside of Swanpole. Little contact there. Baldwin recovers, and that's Pyra off into the gravel. Through comes Daniel Finney, who loses the rear end himself. This has been a crazy race so far.
It has. They're all scrapping like there's no tomorrow. And here comes Vinny Ewan as well. He's going to get a run on Daniel Finney at the moment. They'll go side by side down the front straight, a bit like Mansell and Senna so many years ago. It's the Bean Machine versus the green and yellow. Who's going to be braver on the brakes in towards turn number 1? It's about dead even, but Ewan has the line and he's got the position.
Yeah, that's a textbook overtake there at the first turn. You see how much the sun is blinding the drivers through this first turn as John Bradshaw is looking at this battle. He's also looking in his mirrors because Braden O'Loughlin is trying to make up places, was very late on the brakes behind and nearly rear-ended him, but looks like Bradshaw escapes that for the time being, and a nice exit out of turn 4 as well will allow him to keep that position, though he does lock up in the hairpin. Fortunately for him, he is followed by O'Loughlin. That means Andrew Proctor might have a chance as, wow, have a look at that. Baldwin and Swanpole still scrapping with each other over what is now 9th place. And Swanpole just covering off Baldwin there.
Yeah, Baldwin tried some pretty aggressive moves there, including around the outside of turn 5, and it almost paid off for a little bit there. But sadly, there is only so much grip available, and the car eventually said enough is enough and wasn't quite able to make it happen. But we'll turn our attention a bit higher up the field as we take a look at Turnbull and Vondel, because Vondel, I sort of understand his aggression in the opening phase of the race now, because Brandon Groach is escaping at a rate of knots. To put it in perspective, a 36.6 last lap around versus a 37.0 for Turnbull. So Turnbull's got some great pace, but Groach in a league of his own, and if Vondel thinks he has anything to attack the 22 car, he has to get past David Turnbull ASAP.
Yeah, for the time being, though, it looks like Turnbull is putting his car in all the right spots, and that's the wrong spot to put the car for Vondel. Just a little bit too far onto the AstroTurf. He would have gotten an off-track for that, and also losing a bit of grip on the exit too. This track can be very brutal with that as we check in once again with the number 69 of Peter Smith. He's back out and running and with a rear wing again, but he's all the way down in plumb last. We check in once more here on our leaders, and seems like Vondel's not really making tracks on Turnbull in this area of the circuit, but when they get to the start-finish straight, maybe he'll have something.
Yeah, we'll wait and see, because he's definitely lurking in the distance, just not quite close enough at the moment. Of course, Turnbull is defending very well, like you mentioned, Reese, but also Vondel doesn't quite seem to have the pace to really close up on the gearbox like he needs to. And I don't know whether that's a byproduct of the aero wash, of being so close behind the car in front, that maybe it's just pushing him away in the corners and not allowing him to get into a position to overtake in the coming corners. But Vondel definitely struggling in the high-speed sections from what I can tell compared to Turnbull. So that's an interesting thing to note, as the rest of the field all still somewhat cycling around at the moment. It has somewhat calmed down, apart from Owen Pyra and Vinny Ewan, who are still scrapping away out of the final corner, as Owen Pyra will dive into the slipstream here down the somewhat long front straight. Whether it's over a kilometre or not, we will find out at some point, I am sure. Pyra thinks about the inside but can't quite commit to it.
Yeah, not quite. Another Südspeed.com replay here. We see that's a bit of an overshoot there from the SLM car. And unfortunately, that puts the driver back just a little bit as we ride on board with Owen Pyra. Yeah, looks like he's had a bit of an adventurous last couple of laps right now. At the moment, stuck down in 12th position behind Nguyen and Swanpole. But let's see what he can do to make up some further ground here through the chicane up to the top of the hill. Perhaps the most challenging corner of this circuit, Bo. Completely blind, though you could say that about a few corners around here.
Yeah, you definitely could. There's a lot of these long sweeping corners of this circuit, and a lot of them you don't even see the exit until you're already well past the midpoint of the corner. It's a very challenging circuit that definitely does require a lot of laps to truly understand the flow to it. We'll take a look at another Südspeed replay at the moment, and a big moment there. Was that the 97, and into the wall they will go. That's a shame for Braden O'Loughlin there. Spins it back around and will continue in the race. Now finds himself down in 18th spot. So definitely not ideal there, as this little battle pack just continues to condense a little bit. Pyra's still on the back of Nguyen, but Nguyen's starting to hunt down Swanpole now as well. So this little group just all starting to condense once again, and we can't forget about Baldwin and Schroeder in front as well. So even though it ebbs and flows from here to there, it's still very much a 5-car fight.
It is, and what it's created is a bit of a slipstream stalemate, as there goes Baldwin up the inside of Schroeder. A little bit wide through the corner for Michael, and he filters back in. We do see that our first race control decision has come through. No further action for the incident between Vandel and Smith. So evidently they assessed that it was netcode, as well as Pirate goes up the inside of Nguyen. And Vinny, with the outside line, has the slightly better exit. You can pick up the throttle slightly earlier than your rival. Tell you what, being on the outside in a battle isn't always the worst place to be.
Not at all, as we will take a look at Sebastian Vandel in towards turn number 1. Turns it in, and warily the car not compliant on the trail braking section of the corner there, which has now led to Vandel falling to outside a second from David Turnbull now. So that's a shame there for Vandel in his pursuit for second place, but nevertheless, these drivers up ahead, Pirate, Nguyen, Swanpole, continuing their scrap. This is great to watch as we head just 3 minutes remaining in this race. There is the laps are starting to tick down now. I think with where the leader is at, we may just scrape in 3 laps to go. But nonetheless, these drivers are fighting very aggressively as Pyra well and truly in a slipstream, and Nguyen here, he thinks about the inside, but the issue is the second he pulls out, he's got no draft, but Nguyen still does, but it doesn't matter because a bit of confidence on the brakes goes a long way, and a very, very clean pass there from Pyra, who holds it as we see more battling behind. This is Proctor and Benici. Benici on his recovery drive, and he'll work himself up now into the top 15 and displaces Andrew Proctor.
Proctor trying to fight back, though. You can see he's having looks at him in the braking zone, and that is quite the dive. You can really send it up the inside at turn 4, but once again, outside is where you want to be for the exit. Straighter run out. Careful not to run into the back of Sean. Andrew manages to avoid it. A little bit of smoke up ahead. Not too sure who that was from. Might have been Bradshaw. Yeah, it looks like Bradshaw's having some issues with potentially locking up or just dragging gravel onto the circuit or something like that. I'm not too sure. But we check back in with Jacques Swanpole here, who's now hard on the defensive. Since Baldwin got past Schroeder, he has been driving away from this battle, and Schroeder's running his own race nicely here too. Swanpole, though, has to leave room for Pyro on the inside of the third last corner, and away he goes.
I've got to say, that's a great move. You almost never see a passing move done into that corner. So very, very nice job from Owen Pyra there. And great job as well from Swanpole to actually see what was happening there and leave the racing room. And that's a bit of a slowdown there for Swanpole. I'll just quickly check the entries tab. I'm not... Oh, there is actually a slowdown. So Swanpole has got a slowdown penalty in those final few corners. I've got to imagine it's the second last corner where the drivers do cut quite a bit. And unfortunately, that's hurt him, and he's now had to give up the place to Vinny Newer.
Yeah, that's a shame, but that is the nature of the circuit in that section. Used to be a proper curb on the inside there, but yeah, there you go. Now that it's completely flat on the inside, it's very easy to cut the corner. You need to keep your eyes on stalks in that section. It's so tempting to cut it, though, because you can run a little bit beyond it.
Yep. Definitely can. It's one of those corners, though, that if you play it, say, oh, Owen Pyra's off. Owen Pyra has off the road from a great spot inside the top 10, which, of course, we haven't mentioned so far. But that was, of course, the invert for pole position for race 2. And for Pyra, I hate to make it more painful, but sadly loses it in what is probably the penultimate lap, and will have almost no chance of recovery from that. Down to 13th. Just lost it under braking too fast and slid straight off.
Yeah, got on the brakes very quickly, though, to recover it.
Just off the road as well, which means Vinnie Nguyen's going to close up significantly as well.
Oh, dear.
These drivers that are in great spots for the front row of the grid or our invert for race 2 are throwing it all away on the final 2 laps as we hit the white flag, I do believe, and these drivers are going to be fighting it out. 3 drivers in a fight for 9th. That doesn't all mean they can get the invert, so one of these drivers in his battle pack is going to miss out.
Right now, it is Jacques Swanepoel, but Nguyen has got a great run into turn 3 here. He wants to try and put as much space between himself and Swanepoel as possible. Going to be a solid 10-lap race for this one, with lap times in the 1 minute 36-second bracket. Looks like, unfortunately, Braden O'Loughlin has fallen to last place as well. He's had a big crash at, it looks like the third last corner. But regardless, we'll keep our eyes on this battle. Because now it looks like Vinnie Nguyen is on the attack here versus Michael Schroeder, almost on the rear diffuser, coming up into the chicane.
Yep, and there was a bit of a mistake as well from Swanepoel, and he's thrown himself half off the road at turn 5. So this is out of the question now for him potentially overtaking Nguyen. But it's whether or not Nguyen wants to get position number 9 as we take a look at the bottom screen. And for the second time this season, it is victory for Brandon Groach. A great drive with the podium rounded out by Turnbull and Vondel. But 9th and 10th is not settled yet. This is the fight for the front row of the grid for race 2 with the top 10 invert. And at the moment, it is going to be Nguyen on pole. But does he want P9 for the race? I don't think he's going to have the opportunity. And Schroeder will win that battle and will start second for race 2.
Wow. All right. Oh, okay. And it gets a little bit crossed up there between Bradshaw and Benici at the final corner as well. But they escape without having an off. And, well, spare a thought for Braden O'Loughlin, who's had a very rough race here, will be the last car to come across the line, and it looks like dealing with some damage there as well at the front of the car. How far behind is he? Well, Peter Smith is just coming through the third last corner now, so that is an awful lot of time loss for the driver that started in 14th place. This is what happened to him a lap ago. Just lost the rear end on the way into that very same corner. So there goes Smith, now off the very last position on the grid. But it looks like O'Loughlin is going to take it nice and safely to the line and bring us to an end for race 1, Bo.
Absolutely, and nonetheless, great job to get it home for Braden O'Loughlin, but also a great job from Brandon Groach to lead them all at the end of 10 laps here at Barcelona. A great drive from pole position, but now he has all the work to do in race 2 from 10th on the grid. David Turnbull and Vondel round out our podium for race 1, with Henry Fenson and Cam Edwards also having solid drives to round out our top 5, with Mark Foster, Eric Fenson, Brady Baldwin, Michael Schroeder, and Vinnie Nguyen completing our top 10 tonight.
Finishing in 11th place was Jacques Swanepoel, with Daniel Finney coming home a few seconds behind. Owen Pyra and John Bradshaw and Sean Benici round out our top 15. Proctor finishing in 16th, and then we had Pring, Smith and O'Loughlin suffering plenty of issues in that first race. But now we can take a little bit of a breather here in preparation for race 2. This is how the standings look on the way into it. No, let's fix that up behind the scenes. That was the championship standings going into this round. We need to apply the points from the race just run. And that looks a little better there. Brandon Groach making up quite some ground there on Sebastian Vondel.
Yeah, absolutely. The gap went from about 45 points coming into tonight down to just 28 there. So it's a great improvement there from Groach, but there's still plenty of work to do. And now the big challenge for race number 2 is, of course, that Vondel will actually be starting ahead of Groach thanks to their finishing positions for race 1. So that's going to be a very exciting fight, but Groach has proven he's got the pace. Does he have the strategy as well? We know there's a fuel cap going into this longer 35-minute race. There is plenty of factors here for these drivers to work their way through the field. Do you go on brute pace, or do you try and strategize it a little bit?
Yeah, that is the big question. Well, with a couple of minutes left in warm-up, it's time for us to take a little breather here on SimSpeed TV. You're watching the Südspeed Sportscar Series. Don't forget, in the Südspeed online store, you can use the code SportscarSpectator and receive a discount, thanks to us here at SimSpeed TV, as well as Südspeed Sim Racing Gloves. We'll catch you in just a couple moments.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to round number 3 of the Südspeed Sportscar Series. Race 1 has concluded. Race 2 coming up, 35 minutes and plenty of strategy as well. And not to mention a top 10 invert. There is plenty going on, but of course, one of the big factors in this series is our sponsor, the Südspeed gloves, which are a fantastic bit of kit. And we would be cruel not to remind you of our fantastic discount code that has been provided for us, Sportscar Spectator. You can use that to get yourself 10% off and free shipping as well. And we very much recommend trying to get that done. Not only is it a great deal, but they are some great gloves as well. I believe all of us have now got a pair here in the production trailer. Myself, Reese, and Jay, and all of us have plenty of kind words to say about it. They are a great bit of kit, Reese.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Well-fitting gloves, breathable fabric, and they have ended up serving me very well so far. Make sure to grab your pair today. We also have the race winner, or the round winner, receiving a pair of Südspeed gloves, and a Südspeed shirt is going to be going to the driver of the day, which we're going to award when racing concludes.
Yes, indeed. Plenty of prizes up for grabs as well. And one of the other ones that us in the commentary booth have a bit of fun with is our Driver of the Day award as well. So we'll be taking a look at who's making some good moves and even putting on some great performances. So even if you're down the pack, it doesn't matter. We're looking out for who we think has done a great job on the night, and they will get themselves some pretty cool kit, including a Südspeed shirt. Taking a look at our schedule now, of course, Donington, Montreal, and now Barcelona are just about done, but plenty of exciting tracks still to come, Reese, including our favourites. I believe you were quite excited for Aragon. We've also got Circuit Zandvoort coming up as well.
Yeah, the brand new layout of Circuit Zandvoort on iRacing that's been there since 2020 or thereabouts, and finishing off the championship at Phillip Island. We've got a beautiful schedule coming up for you all over the next few weeks, but we should get into our grid for race 2 now, Bo.
Yep, we absolutely should, and it's all kicked off by Vinnie Nguyen on pole position. He shares that front row with Michael Schroeder. What a fight they had in race 1. Will it happen all again in race 2? Brady Baldwin, plenty of pace from P3 ahead of Eric Fenson and Mark Foster, your top 5, with Cam Edwards, Henry Fenson, Barndell, David Turnbull, and Brandon Garoche, your top 10.
Yeah, rounding out 11th place. It's where they finished in race 1. Swanpole, Finney, Pyra, Bradshaw, Benici, Proctor, Pring, Smith, and O'Loughlin will take up the rest of our 19-car field here, as the drivers are now making their way down to the penultimate turn, and it is getting dark out there. You can see it behind the graphic, just how much the headlights are making a difference.
Yep, 7:40 at night for these drivers. Those headlights are well in use, and they're only going to become more and more important as the race goes on into the dark. Here at Barcelona, already on the power, it is green flag for race 2 of round 3 at the Südspeed Sportscar Series, and a great jump from Nguyen there, and he is going to lead them away nice and easily with the chasing back behind, all trying to work their way through. Baldwin with a great start. You can see as well Eric Fenson up the inside, trying to get racy as they'll funnel their way through. It was clean for race 1. Will they be able to go clean again in race number 2? It looks so far so good as they funnel their way through the oh so long turn number 3. That long right-hander, a couple of side-by-side moments, including from Groach and Edwards, as Groach continues his charge forward already.
Yeah, he is firing it up the inside every chance he can get. After getting passed by Brady Baldwin, Schroeder lost a bit of pace in turn 3, and now, oh, there we go to the lead for Brady Baldwin. See him up there in the distance. Looks like Nguyen may have run wide in the hairpin. He did. He was defending from Baldwin, and unfortunately just got on the brakes a bit too late. Brady said, "Thank you very much, sir."
Yes, indeed. So a nice easy pass there for Baldwin. Can he escape now? With plenty of draft here at Barcelona, it's not going to be easy to do. As we take a look at Vandel in the back, so tight into the corners there. He backs out of it, and thankfully so, as it all got very tight with Fenson and Schroeder as well. Schroeder defensive through this long right hander. Vandel thinks about the inside of Fenson, and if he can do it, and I think he will, he'll get the inside for the next 3 consecutive corners. So it's an easy move into position number 4, which means 4 spots gained already for the 58. Our championship leader is flying.
Yeah, he's doing well at the moment, on board with Mark Foster, who had some technical issues earlier on in the lap. Now, right on the back of Eric Fenson. Does he have enough to go for a lunge into turn 1? Has to be brave on the brakes. Eric Fenson is braver. Behind them, Henry Fenson keeping Brandon Groch behind for just a couple more corners.
Yes, indeed. It's all getting very tight for a lot of these drivers. They're working their way through turns 1, 2, and 3. Very close indeed. As we'll get a Südspeed replay here. Exactly what happened in Nguyen. You can see just overdrives the entry just a little bit. And Baldwin over under as easy as you like. Gets the move done. Will continue his way into the race lead now. Gap out to just 0.5 of a second. So not able to break away as these drivers behind, including Benici, Smith, and Bradshaw, continue their fight.
Yeah, Bradshaw is riding the rear end of that car at the moment, and Smith trying desperately to try and make up spots after a disastrous first race here.
It is really on for second. Sorry to cut across you here, but it is closed up massively. As
it has.
Backwards. Nguyen's now down, getting attacked by Vandel, who dives up the inside to make it almost 3 wide at one point there. And Vandel to position number 2. Nguyen slides back to position number 3, and Schroeder, who started the lap in 3rd, now finds himself down in 4th. But all that battling has given Brady Baldwin a 2-second lead. He has bolted from the front.
He has. All of that battling, all of that running side by side has just cost everybody time. And Baldwin is out front thinking, yes, all I need to do is hit my marks and I can have an excellent gap. This race is going off right now. Schroeder having a go at Nguyen into turn 1. We also see the side-by-side between Fenson and Foster. Take it easy, boys. And they manage to all get it done and fall back into line by the time they get to turn 2.
Yep, but drivers like Foster have compromised their line, which allows Brandon Groach to go around the outside at turn number 3. It's a long way around the outside for turn number 4, but late on the brakes, and Groach moves a position forward. So Vandel in second is great for him, but don't think there isn't a threat coming from behind for our championship leader either, as Groach now into position number 6. 4 spots gained for him, and his next target is Eric Benson, who finds himself in this battle with Nguyen and Schroeder. It is all oh so close at the moment, and you can see plenty of moves about to happen in the near future, including Groach thinking for just a brief moment about the inside of Fenson there.
Yeah, not quite though. Rely on the run out and take advantage of the slipstream, maybe dive up the inside here. That's exactly what he's going to do. And we also see David Turnbull going forward in the background there versus Henry Fenson. That's moves completed for both cars. Nicely done. Now, coming towards the end of this third lap, this is going to be Vandel's first lap without having to pass people, so we can get a proper read on what the pace is like for our top two. Brady Baldwin across the line, 1 minute 37.3. It's a 1:37.096 for Sebastian Vandel, so he is closing, but probably not by as much as he wants.
No, 2/10 is the difference there. So it's going to be a little bit difficult for him to reel in Baldwin at the moment, but with a 35-minute race, there is two as a huge moment there on our Südspeed replay there as the driver catches the car and holds on to it very easily. Well, Vandel there, who was that replay, clearly pushing as Roach now thinks about the inside and Ewan and will dive up the inside as we see Benici off, but it is Roach up the inside and another pass done. Finds himself in 4th spot now. Goes defensive into turn number 5 there and gets that job done. So that charge continues for the Juice Racing car.
Certainly does. Seeing Benici off, it was contact with John Bradshaw. This is it on the replay, and once again, it looks like there's space between the cars, but latency comes into it. It's especially difficult for Benici there. It's very unfortunate that he was in that position. These cars, of course, being prototypes, very sensitive to stuff like that. I have to keep an eye on that. Gap is now well under a second between Baldwin and Vandel. Looks like Seb has turned on the pace here, and he's not far away from picking up a solid slipstream from Baldwin down the front straight. So they come to the line. I'll see what this lap is like for Baldwin, a 37.795 versus a 36.8 from Vandel. He is flying.
Yep, he definitely is. That 36.8 didn't register though, so an off-track somewhere on the circuit, so he's using all the track and a bit more. Speaking of using all the track and a little bit more is Peter Smith in his defense. And Daniel Finney in the Beans machine, who thinks about the outside for turn 1 and 2. Can't quite do it though, it is a long way around the outside there.
Yeah, very long indeed. So Smith is going to stay ahead at least for a little bit. Finney's going to have to try and find some way through here. Of course, the drivers will have pit stops to think about as Groch makes his way past Schroeder and gets into 3rd place. Nice move up through the field from Brandon, who won the first race here. Yes, Bo, pit stops. We have to think about that because it's likely that the drivers are going to have to stop for approximately 17 litres. Round about lap 7 is when we should expect drivers to start coming into the pits.
Yep, and that will be kicking off very soon as we work lap number 5 at the moment. Though one thing we always talk about with strategy is fuel saving. And I've got to say, I'm not going to bother mentioning it more than that because I've not seen a single driver even think about fuel saving. It's been attack, attack, attack from lights out. And that has been great to see as well as the gap continues to come down at the front, down to just 0.7 of a second now. But the issue for Vandel is he's got to try and make this move happen very, very soon, because the longer it takes, every lap he sits behind the number 7 of Brady Baldwin, despite Brady's good pace, now finding himself in the 37 zeros. The fact is, Brandon Groch is doing 36 ones in the background. Massive pace from the 22 car, who's going to hunt down Sebastian Vandel with everything he's got. And time is on his side as well, with still 26 minutes left in this race. The pressure's on Vandel here to really step up.
Interesting to see that Henry Fenson and Sean Bonici have made their way into the pits, and I don't think that's for damage. Maybe it is in Bonici's case, but Henry Fenson taking an early pit stop, 8.6 seconds. Now, that doesn't seem like it's quite enough for fuel. We got some news from Richard Mayer, the organizer of this series. He said that 17 litres takes about 10 seconds to put in the car when it's stopped. So who knows? Fenson might be banking on a safety car, or maybe he just decided to get some damage done, and we can get to that later. For now, side by side on the way down to this corner here. Oh, there's a loose behind. Off goes Eric Fenson.
Yep, and that's a big lose under brakes there. Very high speed. You both caught that in the background, I think, and that was a big moment there. We'll get a replay for you in just a moment as Nguyen continues to fight Turnbull and Schroeder as well. These guys have not been able to separate each other all race long, or all round long, I should say. They fought in race 1, and they're fighting in race number 2 as well, which is great to see, as a fastest lap of the race continues to stay with Brandon Groach, who just took a casual 1.2 seconds out. Actually, Vondel leads. I've got this all kinds of confused here. Vondel leads. That's why the pace difference is so dramatic. And you'll see here, Brady Bull in final corner, too much speed into the gravel. And with the new iRacing update, that gravel is more painful than ever before. It will slow you right down.
That it will. Now Brady is having to think about Brandon Groach behind, who's steadily closing in. We'll see what happened to Eric Fenson here. Attempted move made by Nguyen ahead, but it looks like, wow, that was weird. I haven't seen a slide like that in a while. Probably just locked the rears a little.
Yeah, I think that's the case. We're seeing a lot of the drivers, especially on the downshifts. This car is a bit prone to compression locking, I have found out in my experiences with it. I'm wondering if compression locking is playing a bit of a factor there. Rears locked up, and there was nothing he could do. Just a pure passenger there for Eric Fenson into that big braking zone. As we take a look at Peter J. Smith, who has done a sterling job, it must be said, up 8 positions in the opening 7 laps.
Yeah, you can always count on Peter Smith to put on a consistent drive. That's what happened for him at Montreal last round, where we gave him our Driver of the Day award, I believe. And, I got to say, he would be very happy with that. As Brady Baldwin pits from third there, from second rather. Brandon Groach moves by, as does just about everyone else. So, Brady, another one of the drivers here who's looking for a reverse engineer kind of early pit strategy. Peter Smith coming in too.
Well, the big factor I'm thinking here is if there is a safety car, of course, we're using the iRacing automated safety car. Does mean you're not allowed to pit until the entire field is bunched up on the 2nd lap. If you've already taken your pit stop, you're going to cycle to the lead of anybody who has not currently pitted. So that's a very risky play by Brady if that is the train of thought, but nonetheless, if it does pan out, that is a big advantage there for the number 7 car. So he'll be counting his lucky stars at the moment as Sebastian Vondel continues to push. But on this particular lap, watching the split times, I'm seeing Brandon Groach just chipping away slowly at the back of the number 58 car.
Yeah, Groach with a 136.8 on the last lap, 136.3 from Vondel. So I think there might have been a slight error from Vondel on this lap. Yeah, there was. It was down at the hairpin at turn 5. He ran completely wide of the apex. So now might be a battle for the lead on, as Braden O'Loughlin is touring around at the moment in 12th place. Still hasn't come in for a pit stop yet. He certainly had a rough night. He'll be hoping for a bit better from this one.
Yep, absolutely will. As we'll take a bit of a look at exactly what happened to Vondel in turn number 5 here. And it just locks the inside front, runs as deep as you like, and a couple of inches more to the right of the circuit. And he would have found himself in the grass and sliding well off the circuit. So a lucky escape there, despite losing plenty of time there from our championship leader. As more fights continue, you can see down towards turn number 1, Ewan and Pyra side by side. And at that one, we'll go to Vinny Ewan, who keeps the inside for turn number 3, makes the move stick.
Nicely done there from Vinny Nguyen. So can Owen Pyra fight back at all? This is a turn where you can really fling it in. You can brake so late and still hook up the inside, but it's more about how soon you get on the throttle than anything else. And it seems like Pyra has a slight advantage over Nguyen in that area, as that looked like a tiny bit of a slide there from Vinny, but he hooks up the exit as well. So 21 minutes remaining of this 35-minute race. We have battles happening all throughout the field, and we have a split now between drivers who decided to pit early and drivers who will most likely be going long at this point.
Yeah, indeed. So big question now is, when do some of our leaders, like the likes of Vondel, Groach and Turnbull, dive into the pits? Of course, we've already seen Baldwin in. And just looking at where he is on circuit, he has purely clean air around him. No traffic at all to deal with. So as far as coming out in a nice place on circuit, that is a great spot from Baldwin. Punches it with laps. Of course, he hasn't quite set a lap yet since he has rejoined the circuit, but we'll keep an eye on his lap times once he has, compared to our leaders, as Brandon Groach sets a new fastest lap of the race and takes 4/10 of a second out of your leader.
Yeah, Groach seems has been the driver to beat here. Vandel has not been quite on the pace, has he? He was pretty dominant in terms of pace in the first couple of rounds of the series, but seems like Barcelona's not quite smiling on him. Owen Pyra jumping into the lane as well, and he'll fall down the order a little bit, but it looks like a solid stop from Owen. Let's see what happened here. Oh, locked up, and he actually overshot. That's a shame. So the actual pit lane, the actual stop time wasn't that bad, but man, you can lose yourself at least a second by overshooting, even by a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, by times I'm seeing, he only lost about 2 seconds, so it's not great by any means, but at the same time, could have been so much worse. I know sometimes when I've missed the pit lane or pit box, I've lost well more than 2-3 seconds just in trying to get the car into reverse and park it up properly in the second attempt. But he's actually done a great job there, and despite making that mistake, a pretty swift recovery. So great job there, and very heads-up driving as we take a look at Vandel at the moment, and then move back to Brandon Groach. You can see that lead visibly coming down. With a couple of laps to go, it stood at 1.5 seconds. As we speak right now, it is down to just 0.8 of a second. Last lap around, 36.3 from Vandel. Last lap for Groach, 36.0.
Yeah, but he got an off track over the course of that lap, so it doesn't officially count for the fastest time set. Still, that is blistering pace from the number 22. Live standings at the moment, we can see that the gap is only 40 points between Vandel and Groach, and if Groach manages to make the move on Vandel for the lead, that will tighten things up very nicely at the top.
Yeah, it certainly will. Of course, so many people have put a target on Vandel. They're saying he's the guy to beat. They're the one they're all here training to beat, working on setups to make sure they're quicker than. And finally, Groach, who of course won a race at Donington, is now really starting to attack pace, on absolute lap speed, pace, consistency, and also strategy as well. Groach is proving to finally be the match for Vandel. Well, for anyone who watched the first 2 rounds and thought Vandel was just going to sprint away with this, well, I think Brandon Groach has something to say as the gap comes down to just 0.4 of a second. There's no point mentioning the gap anymore, Reese, because there isn't one.
There absolutely is not. There's only a car length or so between the two of them. If this is a 3-way battle, you'd be able to fit another Ligier JS P320 right in the midst of all of that. But I'm sure Brandon Groach is enjoying the fact that there isn't one there. Nice clean exit from the final corner for the both of them, and across the line they come again. 36.5 versus 36.1. Now, is there enough in the slipstream here for Brandon Groach to get anything on Sebastian Vandel? That officially counted for the fastest lap. As I'm seeing problem for Mark Foster down in the field and Michael Schroeder coming into the pits. This is Andrew Proctor, meanwhile, in car 380, coming into the pits, and oh dear!
That's a big hit. We're being told just to hold on for just a second, so we'll see what happens as he's going to reverse up on pit entry. And look, I respect the commitment. That is a bouncy ride, but nonetheless, that's definitely one way to make the pit entrance. And I can assure you, despite all the rules and regulations, we know he wasn't speeding.
Of course, yes. Though we might have to visit the chiropractor after that one. In any case, the race is continuing out on track, and it's unfortunate that Foster lost as much time as he did there. But, well, now, at least he can get the second visit to the lane out of the way to, I think, repair some of that damage that he got. Right then, Vandel out of the penultimate corner. Let's see what the gap is like. Tiny bit of aero push, obviously, in these cars, but not quite as much as there is in faster prototypes. And you can see he's just jetting up to the back minute by minute is Brandon Groach. Still not quite close enough to go for a dive at the first turn, but I think he'll be there in a couple of laps.
Yeah, he definitely will. You can see how much he closes down that front straight. So the slip trim definitely powerful, but if you're going to make a move in towards turn number 1, you need to be so close out of that final corner. And just quickly want to touch on as well, I've been keeping an eye on Brady Baldwin's lap times in clean air, where he stacks up. Unfortunately, the pace just isn't quite there for Brady at the moment. So we do believe this will be a 2-horse race as it stands between Varndale and Groach, pending any safety car incidents.
Yeah, still got 15 minutes for that to happen as Varndale goes wide in the hairpin again. That brings Groach right onto the rear bumper. Braden O'Loughlin coming into the lane meanwhile, already in there. So that just leaves our top 9 yet to take a stop, including these two.
Yes, indeed. What is going to be the strategy call there for either one? Who's going to be the first to blink? I'd almost argue it would be Brandon Groach who will be first to blink. Get himself out of this aero wash that he's currently facing, save the tyres a little bit as well, and hopefully get the undercut on Varndale when he finally takes his pit strategy. Although the other call here that I sort of pulled out the window a bit earlier in the race, Groach also has the opportunity to fuel safe here if he really wanted to, and just follow Varndale into the pits, and then hopefully have a shorter pit stop as well. Well, plenty of tricks up the book, or up the sleeve here for the 22 car, as he exits the final corner once more, a bit further back than he was last lap around. I think we can safely say there'll be no attempt until turn 1 on this occasion.
Yeah, and you can almost hear him lifting out of the throttle just a tiny bit earlier to save that little bit of fuel. David Turnbull, meanwhile, pitting from 3rd, and he's followed in by Cam Edwards. So that's going to promote Brady Baldwin up a couple more positions. See how much that is ultimately worth there for Brady. The battle continues between Ewan and Swanpole. These guys couldn't leave each other alone in race 1, and now they're back together in race 2. And they've done pretty well. I gotta say, Swanpole being able to work his way up like this. Remember, he started in 11th. Now in 5th. Of course, we can correct that for a couple of positions because he hasn't pitted yet, but still, I think it's been a good run through the field for him.
No, it definitely has. It's been great to see that little drive there, and also great to see the clean racing that's been going on through the field as well, particularly in that little battle pack he found himself in early in the race. So very cool to see these drivers continuing to punch in some good performances throughout, and definitely a contender for driver of the day potentially as we take a look. Our battle for position number 10 at the moment between Schroeder and Peter Smith, Benson and Pyra as well. So some of these guys have pitted, some haven't. One driver that has pitted, Brandon Groach, 2nd place driver in the pit lane now, Reese.
Yeah, so now this will make things interesting. Tyres aren't really a problem in these cars, especially with the short race length, but is there possibility of an undercut here? No! Overshot the box. Brandon Groach. I think that's going to lose him the win there, at least at this stage. He does get the pit stop completed as Nguyen comes in behind him as well, but man, that is going to hurt for Brandon. 28.7 seconds in the lane there. That is the 2nd slowest pit stop time out of the conventional pit stops that we've seen so far.
It definitely is, and thankfully he still managed to come out in clean air, which is some relief to him. But the pressure is off of Varndale now, who was in lap traffic, has to be said, with Harley Pring, but Harley being very respectful there, and it will finally jump out of the way. So maybe only a 10th or so lost for Varndale. Runs a bit wide through there, it has to be said, but regardless, Varndale now just doesn't need to try and do anything special here. Just keep it calm, hit your marks in the pit box, and you know you've probably got at least a 2-second window of margin you can play with.
Very true. So how does Varndale respond to this? Does he keep going for a long time, or does he immediately respond and go for the lane? Looks like he is going to go for the lane. I think he would have received news of the unfortunate goings-on for Brandon Groach as we see him overshoot that pit box one more time on the replay. Only a small loss of time there. Now Varndell needs to make sure he doesn't do the same. His pit box will be right at the end of the pit lane, and looks like he has nailed that.
Yep, on his marks there, you can hear him already revving the car. Release from pit lane. We're seeing the pit stop register at just 8.3 seconds. The pit stop itself was actually a second shorter than Brandon Groch's, so the pit stop itself as well was quicker. So that is a big advantage for Varndell, and he will come out comfortably ahead of Groch. Probably about 2 or so seconds between them as they rejoin through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's crucial there, but I mean, we saw the pace from Brandon Groch in the opening stint of the race. I'm pretty sure he'll be able to keep that pace up and potentially have another run at Varndell before the end. John Bradshaw completes his stop. That just leaves Jacques Swanpole, Daniel Finney, and Eric Fenson up the top of the field, yet to take a stop in this race.
Yep, so you have to imagine they'll be coming in the very not too distant future, as at the end of this lap, we're thinking on our current estimates there'll just be 6 laps remaining. So time is ticking down for these drivers as they work their way through. But at the moment, they all look fairly content in their decision. We'll just keep running some laps out, as Finney and Fenson in particular quite close to one another in this little battle group.
Yeah, indeed. Well, here we go. I will correct myself on a detail I mentioned earlier. It wasn't Peter Smith who was driver of the day last round. It was John Bradshaw. Already I'm getting things confused here. But into the pits comes Mr. Finney. He's followed in by Fenson. And that's going to leave Jacques Swanpole out in the lead of this race, but not too far ahead of Varndell and Groch. They're only 2.6 seconds behind, as that's the fastest lap again from Brandon Groch. First race lap in the 35s that we've seen for a while.
Yep, and that wasn't just a 35, 35.7. He hasn't just crept into the barrier. He has smashed the 35 barrier. He is flying right now. And yeah, I was a bit worried. I thought that maybe having Groch behind Varndell for a couple laps before the pit stops, maybe Varndell would have learnt something that Groch was doing that he wasn't, that maybe would have meant Varndell would be a bit quicker in this second stint. But the reality is that Groch just has brute pace at the moment, and whatever Varndell has in store, Groch has a 1-up ready.
That he does. While this lead battle is going on, maybe we should turn our attention to Baldwin and Turnbull, because they're looking pretty close right now. Baldwin, he's been dropping off the pace a little bit, and oh my goodness, nearly gets rear-ended by Turnbull coming into the chicane. This is going to be a tense battle to watch between these two.
Yep, Energy Sim Racing versus Frog Leap Juice Racing. So a nice little battle that's in as Turnbull continue fighting, but you just need to take a look at the last lap times. A 36.3 for Turnbull versus a 37.7 Baldwin, and we've been seeing Baldwin in the 37s quite a lot. So I think that's just about all the pace he has at the moment. So that's a bit of a shame for him that he doesn't quite have the pace that he would have been hoping after race number 1, where he made a great charge through the field. Race 2 hasn't quite been able to convert as much as he would have liked, as the Jacques Swanpole finally dives into the pits and will take his compulsory, well, not compulsory, but needed pit stops to top up for the final 7 minutes of this race, as Turnbull thinks about the inside for turn 1, can't quite commit to it. As I just want to quickly mention the leaders' lap times last time around, because there was just 0.7 of a second difference between the two. They are matching each other oh so close in very, very pacey territory, within 0.4 of a second of the fastest laps of the entire race. They are maxed out right now.
Yeah, it's going to make one heck of a battle towards the end here. See what Varndell or Groch can extract from that pace. Your top 4 all on screen right now. Battle for the lead up top, battle for third down there, and that is effective third, because Jacques Swanpole has continued on after taking his pit stop and is now down in front of Eric Fenson, battling for 9th. So, I mean, just look at how much ground Turnbull makes up in the braking zones there. Brady is on the brakes very early, isn't he? And I don't think he'd be fuel saving, Bo, because David Turnbull had the quicker stop, and Baldwin, I mean, he did push early on in the stint. He didn't have the luxury of the slipstream, but I wouldn't expect him to be fuel saving that heavily.
No, not at all. I'm wondering if almost a bit of instability there from Baldwin, who's just going to pull to the side there. No slowdown that I can see on my timing screen. So Baldwin going for a bit of an interesting tactic here. If it is at all a tactic, might have just been just a moment out of the final corner, but regardless, he'll hold the inside for turn 1 and defend from Turnbull for yet another lap to come, I'm sure. But Baldwin, looking more and more vulnerable, as we'll get a little bit of a replay here from Swampole. And of course, he was in 3rd place at the time, or fighting for the top positions at the time. He'll pull to the side as well and just slow on down.
Yeah, it looks like he caught the gravel on the exit there, and oh, hello. Take it easy. David Turnbull up the inside of Brady Baldwin. Baldwin tried to go for the over-under again like he did at the start of the race, but it just wasn't there for him. Yeah, Swampole, I think, just catching the gravel on the exit of the turn there, it slowed him down enough that, oh my goodness. I try to make a point about someone else, and then someone does something exciting that we're looking at. A little bit frustrating in that regard, but it's certainly entertaining.
By all respects, yes, it definitely is. But regardless, Michael Schroeder having a great drive at the moment. Of course, it is down 3 spots from where he started, but with the amount of talent and drivers behind him chasing him down and take some positions away, he's done a great job at the moment to remain where he is in that top 5. So Schroeder in the 263 having a great drive as Peter Smith thought about the inside there, couldn't quite do much with it.
No, it looks like Peter Smith is going to have to look for another way through here. Michael Schroeder just up ahead of him, and you can see he's certainly driving hard. He is working the wheel very nicely on the way through that final corner, but nothing doing here for Peter Smith on the way out of the final turn. Cam Edwards, meanwhile, presumably had a little bit of an adventure here, trying around the outside, and oh, that's similar to what we saw from Fenson in the last race. I think a bit of a compression lock on the downshift.
Yeah, I think it might have been. You can see just how violently the car snaps around. There's no warning. There's no chance anybody could possibly save that. Second that sort of snaps around on you like that, it is game over, and there is no turning back. You take a look at our leaders there, and there was a very slow lap from Groach just a lap or two ago, where he lost half a second of Vandel, but since then, it's been chipping it all the way back, and last lap was actually 0.8 of a second quicker. Yeah, not thousands or hundreds, no, 0.8 quicker. He was flying last time around. I think also a bit of an error from Vandel compounded that as well. So Roach is still piling on the pressure. The only problem for him as they round the final corner, we're looking at just 2 laps remaining. So not only does he have to catch, but he has to pass the 58 in a very, very short amount of time.
This is it. It all comes down to this. And this is similar to what we saw in in the laps leading up to the pit stop, right? Brandon Groach was just making up little bits of time on Sebastian Vandel every single lap, and now he's well within slipstream range, and he can try and go for a dive somewhere. He could afford to back off a little bit early on because he knew he could still take the pit stop, but now, after making that mistake in the box and overshooting, he is going to be desperate to try and make up as much time as possible on track here. Tiny slide from Vandel out of the hairpin. So that leaves Groach with potentially another door half open.
Yep, yes indeed. We're just looking for any kind of opportunity at the moment. Just looking for just half an apex miss from Vandel to slot up the inside, or just anything where Vandel could be a little bit vulnerable. In fact, a bit of a slow exit there from that fast right-hander. And Groach just intimidating a little bit, jerking to the inside. And actually it's worked. A bit of a lock-up on the inside front left from Vandel there, working his way through that long left-hander. With Vandel feeling the pressure, and there's going to be an entire lap left at this Barcelona circuit. 5 kilometers for Vandel to deal with the blowtorch being applied by Brandon Groach as they round the final corner. 1 lap to go. This is the closest Groach has been out of the final corner. We said a move into turn 1 is possible if you're close enough. This might be the time. This might be the chance. It's going to be defensive from Vandel. No way through on the inside. Late on the brakes for both. Vandel's going to hold the corner for now, but runs deep. Compromises the exit through turn 2. And Groach now opens up turn 3 and builds speed the entire way through, but has a bit of a snap at the mid-corner and won't get a chance to turn 4.
That's the frustrating thing about turn 3. You think you're going to have a good run, and then all of a sudden there's understeer out of nowhere. So Groach is going to have to work to find another way through. This is the corner where Vandel has made his mistakes, but he hooks up the apex beautifully this time. He's learned from that. Oh, hello. That's a car off. I think that wasn't Owen Pyra, was it? It was Pring, Harley Pring, who unfortunately retires from the race there. But the battle continues here in the lead for the race. This is the last big opportunity for Brandon Groach to make his way through. Tiny slide on the exit of the corner. I don't think he's got enough, Bo.
I don't think he does. It's going to be a massive dive from here. He'll try it nonetheless, but Vandel safe on the brakes, and that's all he needed to do. He didn't have to do anything special. Just had to hook it up, and he has done that. He just needs to hook up these next 3 right-handers as Groach going for a massive slide. Almost loses it, and that has just relieved all the pressure from Vandel's shoulders. 1 corner to go, and well, you can beat him in qualifying, you can beat him in race 1, but you can't beat him still over a round. Vandel is dominant once again. A great drive in race number 2. He takes victory at a Brandon Groach who threw everything, including the kitchen sink at him. But nonetheless, it is going to be second, and it's going to be P number 3 for David Turnbull.
It certainly is fantastic stuff as Michael Schroeder is going to hold off PJ Smith for 5th place. That was a fun little battle there with race 2 pole sitter Vinnie Nguyen finishing a bit down the order. It's Owen Pyra who takes 7th place behind those guys. And the rest of the drivers come across the line. That looked a bit close there between Edwards and Bonici. That's how they work themselves out. Looks like John Bradshaw has also taken to the finish. Braden O'Loughlin is once again going to be the final driver to come across the line. Seems like Barcelona just wasn't his track this round. And 3 retirements, Proctor, Pring and Foster. That's a real shame for those 3, but still fantastic finishing record and another entertaining night of racing in the Südspeed Sportscar Series.
Yeah, we can safely say we have not had a single boring night yet. It has been fantastic to see, and I don't think we will be seeing a boring round at all if that is what we have in store. Vandel is going to lead to the checkered flag once more, and Brandon Groach threw everything at it and will be 2nd place. And just thinking about it a bit more with qualifying points and everything, I think Brandon might still get away with the round win, but we'll see how it all works out in the end. With David Turnbull in 3rd, Brady Baldwin in 4th, and Michael Schroeder with a great drive in position number 5 as well. Peter Smith brings it home in 6th for PJ's Bar and Grill team. Owen Pyra, the privateer, in position number 7, ahead of Henry Fenson, Vinnie Nguyen, and Eric Fenson as well.
Finishing in 11th place, Jacques Swanpole ultimately finishing where he started, with Daniel Finney doing the same. Cam Edwards, it was a tough one for him, started 6th down to 13th by the end. 1 position gained for Sean Bonici. He took that from John Bradshaw, and Braden O'Loughlin, last driver across the line there. Unfortunately, Proctor 1 lap down. Harley Pring and Mark Foster retiring from this one. That is a real shame there for those drivers, but it is the complete opposite for our podium. And I tell you what, it's going to be a fun one, this, because we have got quite a roster of interviews here, Bo. I think it looks like we'll be going to Brandon Groach first for the race 1 win.
Yep, absolutely. And not only is it the race 1 win, we do have confirmation as well. It is a round win as well. You finally got one over Sebastian Vandel, but sadly race 2 got away from you. Talk me through those final laps, mate.
I was just talking to him. I said midway through the race I wasn't going to fight too hard for it. Just stay where I am, conceal the round win, and be good. But that changed. Like, I just decided I may as well have a dip, see what I can do. And I got close at one point, but just ran out of rubber at the end.
Yep, well, you definitely had a good shout at it, and it was very entertaining to watch as well. A great pace, though, this entire weekend. Of course, you also had pole position, and you ran away with race 1 win as well. Was there a change in setup philosophy, or just Barcelona a track that suits you? What's changed for this round?
It's just a track that suits me, to be honest. Like, my first few laps I did on this combo was on Sunday, and just instantly, like, I enjoyed it. I liked it. It helped that I've done a lot of GT3 here, so I know the track. And yeah, combined with a good setup, it was a dream. I loved every bit of it.
Well, hopefully Spanish Grand Prix tracks is a bit of a common theme for you going very well, because next up is the Aragon circuit. How do you think you're going to go around that circuit?
I've already done a little bit of Aragon in officials, so I'm pretty keen for it. I do like the track, but there are some tricky corners on there which I think will catch a few people out.
Yeah, that definitely is, especially with the outer layout. There'll be plenty of draft action all the way to the finish. I hope to see you and Vandals door to door on the final lap, mate. Before I let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Yes, there is. I'd like to thank all of my teammates at Frog Leap Juice Racing for all the help they support they provide with me. I would also like to thank all of our sponsors in simrigs.com, Juiced Energy, Racecraft, Hyperion Systems, Südspeed, of course, and the Pet Door Company.
Well, Brandon, a great drive tonight, and congratulations once more on the round win. We'll see you in a fortnight's time for Aragon.
Thank you, can't wait for it.
Well, that was Brandon Groch, who did take the round win, but it wasn't a clean sweep. That, of course, was ruined by Sebastian Vandel in race 2. Reese, you're standing by.
I am indeed. Well, Seb, it looks like you've still got the championship lead coming out of this one, but certainly didn't come easy. What was going on for you at the start of the night? Just didn't seem like the track was coming to you.
Nah, lacked a little bit of practice this week, unfortunately, but we knew we were off the pace a little bit and just wanted to secure as many championship points tonight as possible, which we seemed to do. It was just hard following cars in the dirty air. I think it might have been my setup, but that made it worse compared to others. But yeah, we'll get some practice in for next week and come back stronger.
Yeah, certainly. But there's stuff to celebrate here as well. It's another race win on the books for you here in the Südspeed Sportscar Series. So it looked like a fantastic battle in the second race with Brandon there.
Oh, sure was. It's always good racing with Brendan. Good, clean racing. Definitely had me under pressure there on the last lap going into turn 1. Didn't quite know whether to take the outside or the inside, but we opted for the inside and it seemed to work, thankfully.
It certainly did. Well, I guess for now, it's down to preparing for Aragon, which is a pretty similar circuit to Barcelona, though it does have a few more sharp corners. We're using the outer layout for that one, so slipstream is going to be huge there too.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It should make some great racing and hopefully closer racing than this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we let you go, Seb, anyone you'd like to thank? Who gets it done for you?
All the boys from Altus Esports and Altus Australia for all their help. The sponsors, VRS, Logitech, Altus Engineering, Race Tech. I might be forgetting one, I don't know.
All right. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Seb, and hopefully we get another chance to chat to you next round.
Cheers, guys. Thank you heaps.
That was good stuff there from Sebastian Vandel tonight, despite the issues he faced early on. Bo, last podium setup for the second race. You're with David Turnbull.
I am in the second Frog Leap racing car of the night. Double podium for you guys. Can't be too upset with that, David.
It's pretty good, especially after last week and the first round really as well. It's been pretty disappointing, and I was ready to toss it in, to be honest.
Well, you've finally been able to turn it around. What do you think made the change for you this week? Was it just sort of qualifying a bit better, getting yourself out of trouble, or maybe the circuit just suited you a bit nicer?
I think the circuit a little bit, but I think also just walking away from it after Canada and not touching it until about an hour out from tonight.
Love to see it. That is awesome. So How do you think preparation's going to go for Aragon? Are you going to try and put some laps in, or once again just leave it till the last minute and hope for the best?
I think for that one I'll have to because I don't own the track.
Oh, well, there we go. So going to be the last minute. Well, I can tell you've got plenty of fast corners and plenty of straights to deal with. It's going to be pretty exciting racing.
Sounds good.
Had to deal with the night time tonight. Were you prepared for that? How was that for you?
Yeah, I'd forgotten, and I was going to turn off the light in my room, but I forgot, so it made it a little bit harder to see the screens. But yeah, it wasn't too bad because there was some lights around the track.
Ah, beautiful. Very good to hear. Well, before I let you go, David, is there anybody from the team you'd like to thank?
Yeah, of course. Braden and all the guys at the Juice team and our sponsors, Juice Energy, Simrigs, Racecraft, Hyperion Systems, Südspeed, of course. Sorry, Südspeed, and the Pet Door Company.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, David, and hopefully we'll see you in a fortnight's time at Aragon.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
Oh, that was David Turnbull there. And we do have one final interview for the night because, Reese, we discussed in the background with our producer, Jay, and decided on driver of the day. And with a bit of a qualifying effort down in the mid-pack, it was a sterling drive in race number 2 for Michael Schroeder. And for that, Reese, we've given him driver of the day.
We have indeed. Südspeed shirt on the way to you, Michael. That was a really good night for you. You came into the series in Montreal and had a pretty good run, and now you've really gotten a chance to show us what you can do.
Yeah, it's been great. I didn't even see the series until late, so when I saw it, I saw Richard was running it. I thought, you know what, I've got to jump into this and watch the first round. I went, yep, I'm in. So it's been great.
Yeah, certainly. You were right in the thick of the battles all the way through both races tonight. Race 1, obviously, quite hectic, as per usual. Race 2, a little bit more of a thinking man's race, this one. Did it take a bit of getting used to, considering your first round was the pseudo-enduro at Montreal?
Yeah, look, when I got the car, I fell in love with it straight away, but didn't really do much racing with it. And then when I saw like I said, when I saw Richard's Südspeed series, I went, no, bugger it, I'm going to do it and get used to driving it. I've sort of been driving this, that, and every other car, and wanted to stick to GT3s and these. And I think it's paying off. I'm not the quickest, but trying to be consistent and yeah, just put it all together and try my best.
Awesome. Do you think there's anything in particular that you've unlocked in your pace with this car since joining Südspeed?
I think it's teaching me a lot more to actually brake. Like the old adage of slow in, fast out, it really does work with this car. So it's really one of those cars where get your brake bias right and get on the brake, get down through your gears, and get back on that gas as early as possible. Try and get on there at the apex or before it if possible, and it seems to work. It's transitioned over to my GT3s as well, so that's helped me a lot.
That's awesome to hear there, Michael. Well, I suppose here's hoping that we'll get another chance to chat to you at Aragon. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, look, we're a fairly new team, Accelerate Sim Racing. We've got a few sponsors on board, so we've got Abbey Timber, Primal Wheels, Box and Lock, Modern Deck, Blacktown Mazda, and also I'd like to give a shout out to all the boys in Accelerate. There's about 9 of 10 of us in there. It's predominantly a V8 team. I'm sort of the black sheep and doing all the other stuff, but really want to give a shout out to Greg Favell, because he's been doing the paints when I ask him to and doing all the banners and everything. So really want to thank him, and also thank you guys for putting on a great broadcast, and Richard and the team in the background for putting it on, and Südspeed.
All right, thanks for joining us, Michael. Hopefully we get a chance to chat to you next time.
Excellent, thank you.
Brilliant stuff there from Michael Schroeder. Bo, next round, of course, we do go to Aragon, staying in Spain. This is a beautiful circuit. I've enjoyed it since it was added to the iRacing service, and we're running the outer layout, so it's going to be mighty quick.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. I especially can't wait to see what kind of racing we get. Of course, down the long back straight, but more importantly, into that ultra-fast final left-hand corner, which with a car of this kind of downforce is going to be ultra quick. I'm predicting somewhere in the either high 4th gear or low 5th gear sort of range. and it's going to be very, very quick, so that'll be very fun to watch. And I firmly believe if we're going to get a final lap showdown like no other, it could be at Aragon. So believe me, don't want to miss that one on 17th of October, of course, at 7:45, same time as tonight in a fortnight's time. Reese, it has been a fantastic night of racing, and Barcelona, we thought it could have had some good racing. It definitely had some moments, but at the end of it all, Brandon Groach finally stole a round win away from Sebastian Vandel, but unfortunately, only to the realm of 8 points, so the championship lead still standing strong at the moment for Vandel.
Yeah, it's at 40 points heading into the next round. But tell you what, everything from fourth on back is looking mighty close too. You see that Peter Smith is on his own a little bit there in third, but Pyra, Edwards, Turnbull, Fenson, you can throw Finney, Baldwin and Swanpole in there as well. There's going to be a lot of chopping and changing between those 6 drivers when we make our way through to the next round here. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, absolutely. It's not going to be a race you want to miss, so make sure you tune in a fortnight's time. On behalf of Reese, on behalf of Jay, thank you all so much for tuning in tonight for the Südspeed Sportscar Series. We'll catch you in a fortnight's time for round number 4 at Aragon.